My name is Daniel, and I used to live in a small apartment in Queens, New York. This story happened in 2017, and even now, I can't walk down my old street without feeling nauseous. I'm not telling it for sympathy. I'm telling it because I can't forget her voice. I lived on the third floor of a 5-story building. It wasn't fancy old radiators, thin walls, windows that creaked when the wind pushed through. Across the hallway in apartment 3C lived a woman named Mrs. Lane. That's what I called her, at least. I never knew her first name. Mrs. Lane had lived in the building for longer than I had, maybe 20 years, maybe more. She was quiet, a little strange, but polite. Always wore the same faded blue housecoat when she checked her mail. Always nodded, never smiled. I never saw anyone visit her. I'd been hearing strange things from her apartment for weeks before it happened. Banging noises, mostly. Sometimes late at night, other times mid-morning. I remember once hearing something like sobbing, but when I got close to the door, everything went quiet. One night around 1, I heard something that made my skin crawl. It was a voice. Her voice. She was calling for help. Not screaming, not shouting. Begging. Please, please, is anyone there? I got up, crossed the hall, and stood by her door. My hand hovered over the doorbell, then lowered, because I heard another voice. A man's voice. Low. Angry. I couldn't make out what he was saying, but the tone was violent. I panicked. I called the police. They said they'd send someone, but no one came. At least not then. The next morning, I knocked on her door. No answer, no sound. I called again. This time, the operator told me an officer had passed by the building around 3 a.m., but nothing suspicious was observed. I said, did he even go inside? She didn't know. That night, the building was quiet, too quiet. And then, for 4 nights in a row, I heard nothing from 3C. No footsteps, no television, no creaking floorboards. On the 5th day, a terrible smell began seeping into the hallway. By the 6th, someone else finally called the landlord. They opened the door with a key and found her. Mrs. Lane was lying face down in her kitchen, bruised, beaten, lifeless. She'd been dead for days. The police later told us she had suffered multiple injuries and likely died within an hour of that night when I had heard her. And the man? Never caught. They had no prints, no signs of forced entry, nothing. But I know what I heard. I told them. They believed me. But it didn't matter, because by the time help arrived, she was already gone. My name is Thomas. I'm 33 now. But this story begins when I was 24, living alone in a 1-bedroom apartment in northern Michigan. At that point in my life, I was fine, just disconnected. I had no siblings. My mother had passed when I was 18, and my dad, well, we hadn't spoken since the funeral. I worked remote tech support, barely left the apartment, and most nights I just drank cheap beer and fell asleep to the sound of rain recordings. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't happy, just static. And then the dreams began. The first one was subtle. I was in my bedroom, asleep in the dream, hearing something knock at my window. Tap, tap, tap. But I lived on the 2nd floor. There shouldn't have been anyone outside. I remember sitting up in the dream and walking to the window. I looked out. No one there. But when I turned around to go back to bed, someone was lying in it. Someone who wasn't me. I woke up sweating, cold, panicked, disoriented. I turned on every light, checked the closets, the locks, the window. Everything was fine, but the dream kept coming back. Not every night, just often enough to make me dread sleep. And each time, it lasted a little longer. Grew more vivid, more aware. The man in the bed started reacting. The first few times, he just stared at me. eyes open, wide, almost like he'd been expecting me. Then he started smiling. Then he spoke. "You're the dream, Thomas. You're the one who's asleep." It got so bad, I started sleeping with the lights on. I stopped drinking. I even tried staying awake for 36 hours, once hoping I'd be too exhausted to dream. But the dreams weren't the only problem anymore. It started bleeding into real life. One morning, I found muddy footprints by my bed. I hadn't gone outside. My shoes were clean. I lived alone. Another time, I came back from the grocery store and found my bathroom. Mirror fogged over like someone had just taken a shower. But I'd been gone for hours. Still, no signs of break-in. No missing items, just strange. Marks, like someone was copying my life. The worst moment came one night when I woke up at exactly 3:11 a.m. Not because of a sound, but because I couldn't move. I was lying in bed, eyes open, heart pounding, completely paralyzed, and I knew something was in the room. I couldn't see it, but I could hear it breathing. Low, raspy, close. Then I saw my bedroom door slowly begin to open. In the sliver of light from the hallway, I saw a figure, same height as me, same posture, wearing the same pajamas I had on, and I swear to God it smiled. I passed out from fear. When I woke up, it was morning. The door was closed, but something had changed. The man from my dreams was no longer in them, because now he was in the corners of my apartment, reflected in screens, standing at the end of the hall, always still, always watching. I went to the police, told them someone was stalking me. They checked everything. No forced entry. No signs of anyone living there. I begged them to keep looking. I even showed them photo security cam clips where something flickered at the edge of the frame. They shrugged. Could be glare. Could be camera glitch. They didn't help. One night, I took a sleeping pill out of desperation. I just wanted one night of dreamless sleep. I got it. But in the morning, I found a note taped to the inside of my front door. Handwritten, messy, familiar. "Thank you for letting me in. You rest now. I'll take over." I moved out the next day, changed my number, never slept in that bed again. But sometimes, when I pass a mirror too fast, I swear I see him, just for a second, and he's smiling. This story was told to me by my cousin Olivia. She was a camp counselor back in 2014 at a small private summer camp in Maine called Camp Echo. It was the kind of place that didn't even have a website. Parents found it through other parents, mostly upper-middle-class families, sending their kids to the woods for 8 weeks while they traveled abroad or focused on work. Olivia had been working there for 2 summers before it happened. The missing boy's name was Aaron. He was 9 years old. Aaron wasn't a problem child. Quiet, polite, a little shy. Always kept to himself. Olivia remembered that he carried a small sketch pad with him everywhere and drew trees. Trees, birds, and one weird thing. He kept drawing a tall figure standing behind cabins. When asked who it was, he'd shrug and say, "He walks around at night. I've seen him." Counselors thought it was just imagination or a reaction to homesickness. But that summer, Aaron disappeared. It happened on the 4th week of camp, July 19th. Morning roll call came, and Aaron didn't show up. His cabin mates said he was in bed when they fell asleep, but when they woke up, the bed was empty, and his shoes were still under it. The camp director initially assumed Aaron had wandered off early, maybe before breakfast. No one panicked yet, but by noon, it was clear. He wasn't anywhere. They searched the woods, the lake, the cabins, nothing. Olivia says it took the camp director over 3 hours to finally call the police. When they arrived, it was already afternoon. A storm was coming in. Here's where things got strange. Some of the younger kids ages 6 to 8 started telling their counselors something bizarre. They said Aaron had told them he'd been having bad dreams. Dreams about a stick man that stood outside his window at night. He told one girl, "He's trying to copy me. Soon I'll have to go with him." That night, Olivia and the staff gathered all the campers inside the main hall due to the storm. As she handed out flashlights, one little boy tugged her sleeve and whispered, "Don't leave the windows open." That's how he got Aaron. Olivia didn't sleep that night. At the bottom of the page, in shaky handwriting, it said, "He promised I wouldn't be scared if I stopped being me." The official report ruled it as a presumed runaway. No body, no evidence of foul play. But Olivia swears the children's stories never changed. Every single one of them described the same thing. A man made of sticks with no face, who came to camp only at night. And to this day, no one knows what happened to Aaron.